duration of these years after the hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What we learn from this is that is the hijrah that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made, the sacrifice that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made to go from Mecca to Medina was very, noble in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, anytime someone mentions the Islamic year, they mention after Hijri, 1440 or 1445 after Hijri, Ba'd al-Hijrah. So it shows that, what is the importance to this hijrah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had ordered Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to leave the blessed city of Mecca and go to Medina. So alhamdulillah, we are in the year 1445 after Hijri, and subhanallah, in a week's time we'll be in the last month of the Islamic calendar. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sanctified certain months in the Islamic calendar, such as Ramadan, Sha'ban, and ZulHijja is one of those months. There are 4 sacred months, and ZulHijja is one of these months. So inshallah, in about a week's time, depending on the moon sighting, it will be the month of ZulHijja. And subhanallah, it's a great blessing that for the youth, that these days of ZulHijja are coinciding, that as soon as their summer break starts, the days of ZulHijja begin. So as a youth, you have the whole 3 months to relax. But these days of ZulHijja should not be taken lightly. Why? Because they are sanctified. Similarly, the reward in these months is great, and the sin is also great. Just like in the month of Ramadan, if a person is fasting and they're doing great deeds, but they're not following up these good deeds by staying away from sin, then their deeds are being washed away. So similarly, if a person is not honoring that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored, or sanctifying that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sanctified, then they're missing out on the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the history of the Hajj, the pilgrimage to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is found in the Tariq, the Nubuwwat of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had told him to set up this house of worship for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so people may flock here to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Surah Al Imran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna awwala baytin wudi'a lin-nasi lalladhi bi Bakkata mubarakan wa hudan lil-alamin. The first house that was set up for the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is surely the one in Makkah, and having blessings and guidance for the world. SubhanAllah, today we are seated here, we are Muslims, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that this is a guidance for hudan lil-alamin, for all of mankind. An interesting note to mention here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the word Bakka. As we know in the Quran, these two words are interchangeable because they mean the same. So Makkah is mentioned in Bakka. It was the name for Makkah Mukarramah was Bakka before. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the word here, bi Bakkata. And it's mentioned that this Bakka is referring to Makkah as well. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala follows it up in the next ayah. Fihi ayatun bayyinatun muqamu Ibrahim. In it are the signs, the clear signs, right? In it are the clear signs, and it's Maqam Ibrahim, the station of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and وَمَنْ دَخَلَهُ كَانَ آمِنًا, and whoever enters it, has aman, has safety. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, speaks about this Hajj, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا, and it is a right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that everyone, whoever is able to, should undertake this journey to go to the pilgrimage to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whosoever is able to force or manage their way. And وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ عَنِ الْعَالَمِينَ, and if one disbelieves, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is independent of all the worlds. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the word kafara here, disbelieves. Disbelief is also, kafara is also taken in the meaning of, not showing gratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the word shukr and kufr, they're so similar, just one letter changes. So shukr is when you show gratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyone who shows gratitude towards Allah has iman in Allah. Anyone who is ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're treading that line of kufr. So think about it like this, that if we ourselves are not going for Hajj, but the days of ZulHijja are falling upon us, we think that, what is our duty for the people who are not going for Hajj? Today, alhamdulillah, we had a Hajj workshop, and some of the brothers that attended were going for the pilgrimage. And there are protocols for those who do not go for the Hajj as well. One is that they follow the sunnah of those people who are going for the Hajj. So as soon as the days of ZulHijja commence, which is in about a week's time, today is the 24th of Zulqa'dah, I believe. So anyone who goes for this journey, or who doesn't go for this journey, as soon as the month of ZulHijja enters, they are not to cut their hair, they are not to clip their nails. So one thing to mention is for the youth that, many times we're waiting for the day of Eid, and we wanted to get, the fresh haircuts, and we want to, look nice, but we're disobeying the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you want to cut your hair, cut it now, and cut it in a lawful manner. But do not wait till a few days before the day of Eid and think that, I'm looking, proper, and I'm looking, in a way that is beneficial for myself. But think about the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and do not try to disobey that. Why? Because it's the nature of the people that go for Hajj. It's incumbent upon them that they do not what? Clip their nails, nor do they cut their hair, any part of their body. So any part of removing the bodily hair, a person should be mindful that they want to maximize the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ, they want to revive the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ, then make sure we are taking, preparation before. What are other advices that the days of ZulHijja commence? Have a routine. The summer days are very long, but it's Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah, the author of Riyadh al-Salihin, he mentions that it's from the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ, it's from the sunnah that a person fasts the first 9 days of ZulHijjah. So as soon as the first day enters, if you're thinking, now I'm preparing, then you're going to fall short of your goal. And it's mentioned that, each of these days of fasting in the first 9 days of Hajj, it's like each day is fasting like a year. And subhanAllah, anyone who fasts the day of Arafah, it's as if they have fasted for 2 years. 2 years of their sin are forgiven. Now, subhanAllah, it's mentioned that, by the ulama, our previous scholars, that what is meant here by the forgiving of 2 years sins, because again, the year's sins before makes sense, right? A person's sins are forgiven from the year before and then the year after as well. It's mentioned in the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ that the previous year's sins and the year after. Some ulama mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will write such reward for the person who fasts the 9th of Dhul-Hijjah, which is the day of Arafah, that there will be so many blessings, so many good deeds written for that person, that the good deeds will completely outweigh the bad deeds. Because why? The person hasn't committed the bad deeds yet. Of course, all knowledge is with Allah. He knows exactly what good deeds and sins we're going to commit. But here they explain that the good deeds are so weightful, and there's so much in numeration that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala overweighs these good deeds with their bad deeds. So it's like they have not committed any bad deeds. And these are from the hasanat and the fazl, meaning the virtue of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that anyone who fasts the day of Arafah. So again, for the youth, as soon as June 8th is done, which is June 7th is the last day of school, and it could be that June 8th is the first day of the Hijjah, we should all make intention that if not the first 9 days, especially the 9th day, which is Arafah, and make sure to follow the local moon sighting, so that way you're getting the day of Arafah. And also make sure that in Ibn Umar radiallahu anh, the son of Umar radiallahu anh, mentions that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there are no days greater and more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the 10 days of Dhul-Hijjah. So increase what? Your declaration in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mean tahleel, saying La ilaha illallah, your exaltation of Him, that glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa takbir, which is saying Allahu Akbar, and wa tahmeed, and saying Alhamdulillah. So these tasbihat should be recited so much. And as we know, these are all dhikrullah, all praises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembrances of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is the greatest remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the recitation of the Holy Quran. So in these first 9 days, 10 days, whatever it may be, do not think that, I'm preparing for Eid, I need to go shopping. Remember, this is the way of shaitan. Especially when sanctified days come, he will try to avert your attention in any way possible. So he'll use your same, culture, methods to distract you away from the sanctified days. Just as Ramadan, the last 10 days are the closest to Eid, but yet we prepare for Eid rather than the days, the last Ashr of Ramadan. And similarly, when Eid al-Adha comes, we're too busy, preparing for Eid rather than recognizing that these days are the greatest and most beloved days to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, and surely, if a person, all of us have read the ayahs of Surah Fajr, wal Fajr wa layalin ash. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by the daybreak, and then He also swears by the 10 days. Hafiz ibn Kathir rahimahullah, one of the great mufassirin, great, people of the tafsir of Quran, he mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about the 10 days of Dhul-Hijjah here, not the 10 days of Ramadan. Why? Those are mentioned elsewhere, but here all ulama, muhaddithin, mufassirin are in agreement that walayalin ashr means the 10 days and 10 nights of the days of Dhul-Hijjah. And subhanAllah, it's so sanctified that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it was a prophecy just like any other thing that's written in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that when Ibrahim alayhi salam had made this call to Hajj, no one was around him. And Ibrahim alayhi salam told Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, requested that, oh Allah, I'm being ordered to call people to this, your house of worship, but no one is around me. Who is going to hear me? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, your duty is to make the call. I will magnify that call all around the world. Subhanallah, it's mentioned by Mufassirin again. Imam Qurtubi rahimahullah mentions that this call was heard all around. The people that were living and the people that were dead and the people who are yet to come. As we know, there's something mentioned, Alim Arwah, the realm of the souls. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had magnified His call so much that those people who are destined to make the Hajj also responded to the call of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika labbaik. That anyone who was destined to go for Hajj, anyone who heard this call, they responded to the call of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had chosen this month. And subhanAllah, another thing to mention, because again, your summer break is coming, maximize this month of ZulHijja. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, placed the month of Muharram and ZulHijja back to back. ZulHijja is the last month in the Islamic year, and then the first month is Muharram. Both are sanctified months. ZulHijja, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to end off our Islamic, year in good deeds and begin again with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, if a person is able to fast, especially the days are long and the nights are short, if a person is able to fast, they should do so because it's the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If a person cannot fast due to work or any other obligations, then they should fast on Arafah. Now sometimes the confusion comes is that there's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or that's the hadith of the Sahaba, in which they mention we did not see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam fast on Arafah, we did not see Umar, Uthman, Abu Bakr. This is when they're undertaking the Hajj. When a person is aside from people that were performing the Hajj, it's mentioned as the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he would fast the first 9 days of the Hijjah. And inshallah we'll keep everyone updated on the groups that one is before the first day of the Hijjah, when the moon is sighted, I'll remember to make that announcement. Haris will remember to make the announcement that before, when the moon is sighted, we'll make the announcement that the first day of ZulHijjah is tomorrow. Why? Because we have to sanctify these days. We're young here today, so we don't understand. But if we ourselves do not put importance to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put importance to, you'll see that, next generation, first they'll leave off the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then comes what? The fard, the faridah, which is the Hajj itself. They'll say that, why am I going to spend $10,000, $20,000? They're not going to put importance to it. Today, as youngsters, we put importance to our time and wealth, rather than going in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whichever way it may be, calling to da'wah, and especially this pilgrimage. Today we have taken it as such a light manner that, I'm talking first and foremost for myself and my family, that people will say that they'll spend easily, and I've seen it within my own family, that $8,000 for a trip to Disney World, because I've seen it recently within my own family. The son of Maryam, right? The son of Maryam will surely answer the call of Allah, of the Hajj, will surely answer that call, and in which valley of Ar-Rawha. And he will either perform Umrah and Hajj together, or Umrah, but he will answer the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's an authentic narration, Sahih Muslim. Giving importance to what? That throughout all of history, Anbiya alayhim salatu wassalam, Isa alayhi salam, who is yet to come back, they will answer this call, and they had put priority to visit the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the mushriks, even the people who are not believing in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they knew the sanctity of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they knew the sanctity of the month of ZulHijjah. They even themselves would sin less and commit less crimes in that month. Why? They knew the sanctity of it. Today as Muslims, we have to show importance to this month, and especially the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we want our further generation to understand what it means to be a Muslim. The first and foremost are the pillars of Islam, which is Hajj is one of them. So today we do not see many people put importance to the Hajj. Remember, this is a faridah. It's not a faridah for a person to spend $30,000, $40,000 on a nice car. Because again, anything can do that. But only one way you can answer the call of Hajj of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to go there, to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability for all of us to undertake this journey. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to maximize that month of ZulHijjah. Again, summer break is coming. Do not think, my summer break just started, I want to relax. Exert yourself for 10, 15 days, get the reward and the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you have a few more months to, relax. But remember that do not take these days lightly. They are the most beloved days of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are on par with the days of Ramadan. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our sins. Any of the brothers who have already committed to going for Hajj, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept their Hajj. As we know, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that in a hadith, that anyone who does a accepted Hajj, the reward is nothing but the entry into Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq and give us the correct understanding of the deen. Wa aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa lisa'il muslimin fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Jazakallah khair. Yes. Yeah. So as soon as the days of Hijjah enter, you are not supposed to cut your days until you offer your sacrifice, which is Yawm al-Nahr. Yawm al-Nahr is the 10th of ZulHijjah. 10th of ZulHijjah is always Eid al-Adha. After you have offered your animal sacrifice, then you can, that's what the Hujjaj do, right? They offer the animal sacrifice and then they go bald. Yes, Abdullah. Again, there's like levels to the reward. So there's shares. So if the minimum is a shat, right? The sheep, that a person should sacrifice the goat or sheep, and then if a person offers a cow for slaughtering, then there's up to 7 shares that 7 people can offer that as their sacrifice. For example, us 7 of us to get together, put the money, then that will count as each of us our sacrifices. And then if a person wants to sacrifice one, they should sacrifice the goat. So that's what we're waiting on. Okay, so here I'll go to Mawaqid. Today is the what? 24th or 25th of ZulQa'dah. So if we see the moon on the 29th night of ZulQa'dah, then the next day would be ZulHijja. If we don't see the moon on the 29th of ZulQa'dah, you complete 30 days of ZulQa'dah and the next day will be ZulHijja. So this all goes to moon sighting. You'll never know until that day, inshallah. But yes, today is the 24th of ZulQa'dah, so it's about, more or less than a week. But if anyone's intending to fast, I recommend that, and myself, that prepare for that, because it's a longer fast in the month of Ramadan. It's about, an hour longer than usually than the month of Ramadan was. Jazakallah khair. That's it. Inshallah, the brothers can go. Inshallah, we'll organize the teams, inshallah, and play basketball until Maghrib. We have about an hour and a half, but we'll stop about 15 minutes before so everyone can freshen up. Brother Hajj, we're going to have the food after Maghrib, or? So we can order it during, maybe 7:45. 7:45. So brothers can eat outside. That way we can have, less mess inside the house and the masjid, inshallah. Jazakallah. Huh? Huh? Relax, brother.